function print screen. Since we're on the laptop, you do have to do function F screen because on a laptop keypad, print screen is a secondary function. So on your keyboard at your desk, since you have a full-size one, it's print screen, and then you get this cursor. Just click and drag to
whatever you want to capture.
Yeah.
And then you get to save it in wherever you want to.
So, yes. So Chris is able to show you that. But everything that's in there they're all tools that you actually have free and readily available access to. So 7-zip is another really positive one that I recommend to people. It helps you to compress your folders and files. It's called 7-zip, 7-zip. There's another one called Notepad++. It's not dissimilar to Notepad, but it has a little bit extra functionality to it. And all you have to do is, like you mentioned, you scroll down to whatever the tool is, you click on it, and then you'll just have the installer. And if it says uninstall, that means it's already on your computer. And so some of the stuff that I really like to do, for the most part, is like Nancy said, you use things based on your position, but what I tend to really appreciate about GreenShot is when I actually use it for screenshots is that you have that little magnifying glass, and it's super easy to just go ahead and pop that up. And so I love actually having that grid there, so you can actually see exactly where you're going, and then you can get down to like almost a pixel level to grab something. But there are other tools like Snipping Tool that give you access to do that. Snipping Tool is a very simple tool, and it gets the point across, and it has a time delay. So it has different functions that are super helpful. The problem is that it doesn't have the same sophistication. I like here is the additional options with GreenShot. You have copying it straight to your clipboard, so you can just paste it wherever in an email or in a file or anything like that. Or you can start to do additional things like dropping it immediately into OneNote, PowerPoint, Word, Excel. They automatically drop into there. There's additional ones here. I don't think you guys most likely use these too much, maybe Box, but the Open an Image Editor is the one I use the most because I use GreenShot a lot.
I wonder if that would help it be more clear.
Opening it in the...
Sometimes it comes out kind of fuzzy when you put it into something else.
Maybe. So I open an image editor because a lot of times when I'm doing things, I have to add additional modifications to it. So in this instance, one of the things I would say is like, okay, we're going through training on GreenShot. I want to draw attention to it, so I'm gonna create a red box around it and say, hey, I want you to pay attention to this because this is what I'm discussing. And so I'll put big bold red arrows and things like that. And like, hey, I want you to go.
I do that in Paintbrush or Paint. Yeah. Where is?
So let's go through that real quick. So what we do is that should be, I think it's like the third option. So I'll go through it again. I went through it a little too quickly. Sorry. So let's get out of here. So what you do is you do your print screen to go ahead and grab it. So I'll grab it right here, and it is the third option. It has the little GreenShot symbol right here, where it says share, open an image editor. I actually don't think that I'm sharing my screen. I'm not. There you go. So it should be the third option right here. Open an image editor, and that little symbol is the GreenShot symbol. So this looks the same. Should be the same.
It's after you capture it.
Correct.
Okay.
Right after you capture it.
Okay.
Good question. So now we've opened it in the image editor, and so once it's open, initially what you'll see is, this is a really neat feature, I feel anyway, is that you'll see this little dot grid that looks kind of weird, and you're like, what the heck is that thing? That's your cursor. So they initially have your cursor selected to determine whether or not you want it on the screen. If you actually hit delete, it disappears the cursor.
Okay, and then open it.
So the cursor's not there anymore, and now you can modify the screen however you want.
There you go.
Oh, and then you can add, can you just add text and whatever?
Yes, ma'am. So right here on the left side of the screen, this is the selector tools first. This is a rectangle to draw rectangles around things. Here's circle. This is to draw a line, arrow. I'm not sure what that lasso is. This is text, a chat box, and highlight. You can actually do a couple other things too, making modifications. So it's kind of like a basic level image editor is what I would call it. It doesn't give you a lot of sophistication, but it gives you a pretty good deal for what you would use it for. And in doing training documents, I found it to be super helpful. I was like, I didn't need much beyond that because it gives you a good crisp image, and then you actually can do the arrows right from there. And you're like, okay,
so
click on this.
Working, mine won't.
Sure. Let's look at it. Have you got it downloaded?
So I want it to, I put it in the thing and I have text and I want it, oh, there it is, finally. Oh, I got it.
Excellent, excellent. So, that's Screenshot. I highly recommend it. There are other tools available, like Snagit and Snipping Tool. Snipping Tool comes with your device, naturally. You might not find it on your desktop. You might have to do a search to find it, but it's a pretty straightforward tool. I recommend to use Screenshot, but Snipping Tool, you might lean towards that if you don't really need the same. It's going to give me a hard time today. I guess that's going to be. Snipping Tool actually is just much simpler. It really is. You just, a little tiny menu pops up, you click to select the section, you select it, and that's basically it. You're not doing a lot in the way of like modifying the image, and if you don't need to, that's great. If you're doing it just literally for screenshots, that's the way to go. Neither of you are Mac users, but I would tell you, if you are a Mac user, Screenshot's not available on the Mac right now. So if you have a device at home or something you would prefer to use this on, you're going to have to use another tool. So that is Screenshot. To answer your question earlier about the image being fuzzy, if you know what tool you're going to paste this into and it's available on here, I would export it to there. So if you're going to do it into a PowerPoint or to a Word document or something like that, I would use the Tools innate transfer function to do that rather than copying and pasting it.
It's also not a bad idea to run through Screenshot's preferences. If you use it frequently.
Oh.
Thank you.
It allows you to save it as different file types, and
look at that.
There's a bunch of other stuff.
So you can kind of get a more distinct image on it?
Yeah, so right here, you go to Edit, the Edit option, and you go down to Preferences, and then once you go to Preferences, this is what Kevin's talking about. So here's the hotkeys where it explains how you capture based on what you're trying to capture, if it's a window, region, last region, and then you can actually go through here and find additional information, how it outputs. Here's the storage location naturally, your destination. Oh, you can select the destination automatically is what Kevin's talking about, so you can set a lot of these up already. Printer, plugins, expert. And I will say I've never actually even looked at that, Kevin. So what are the preferences that you tend to prefer and why?
I wanted to make it a JPEG at all times and
oh, neat.
To my desktop, and I bumped up all the settings for resolution.
Yeah, I just did it. That's nice. Yeah,
because usually it comes out in Ping or something funky. Well, not funky.
But it's
PNG.
Sometimes I capture an image and it's really fuzzy.
Oh, so there's.
No, it helps to crank up your screen resolution.
I did.
Yeah.
So Kevin, what Kevin was mentioning is right here in the output within the settings is you can actually go down here and drag and like to the drop-down menu and go to JPEG, and then you can actually go to the JPEG quality and you can drag that up to 100%, so it doesn't lose visual quality based on the initial capture. So I actually didn't know about that, Kevin. Thank you. So that is Screenshot. With Screenshot, I do agree with Nancy. Oftentimes there are things that you need to be able to do beyond just what the Screenshot is capable of, and for that we use an image editor. So when you say Paint, are you talking about MS Paint or are you talking about Paint.net?
I just got Paint on here.
Okay.
You know that.
So within Software Center, there's another tool. It's called Paint.net.
Is that pretty good?
I use Photoshop.
Oh, well, if you have Photoshop, I mean, that's even better, but, I mean, not all of us have Photoshop, right?
Actually, most of the time I put it in Word and use Word's drawing stuff. It's faster.
Oh.
Yeah, because then I have to do it there, and then I have to take it out of there and put it in a Word document, or else copy and paste it back onto an email, so sometimes it's, I just do whatever I can to get the information
as quickly as possible. So Kevin's tool, Photoshop, is much more sophisticated, so it's going to have a lot of the capabilities you're looking for. Photoshop, we don't have readily available access. I think Kevin has, he got a license earlier on, so we haven't purchased any new licenses for that for a long time. But Paint.net is actually what I utilize that is not anywhere near as sophisticated as his tool, but it's freely available in Software Center. So if you download it, Paint.net is, like I mentioned, similar but not the same. And I think it's actually pretty user-friendly too. So when you open it, I would say it's kind of like a Paint, MS Paint to the next level is basically what it is. So you'll open it like you would normally, but now instead of Paint, which is you just have a few different tools and that's about it, Paint.net actually has in the top right-hand corner, you have a history. So you can actually edit, undo things. You can actually just go back. You don't have to actually go in and manually delete things and like. Oh, can you? Oh, I didn't know that.
Just a little back arrow.
I
do that all the time.
There you go.
I text something wrong in a text box and you don't.
That's a good way to do it, having that edit undo. So it has it, instead of just doing one back, you can actually, with the history option here, you can go back to the beginning. So if I spend 2 hours working on things and something is really wrong, you can actually go all the way back. So let's, just for the heck of it, I'll just write some stuff in here real quick. So I've got like 15 lines here. And you can actually go all the way back to the very top to where it's a new image, and it immediately goes back on everything that it had previously done. One thing that I don't believe MS Paint has is here in the bottom right-hand corner is called layers. And so layers are super helpful with what you're discussing, like adding text to an image, is because you can have an image right here, and you add a new layer and add the text to it, and then if it doesn't work out the way you want to, you can modify just this layer. And then you don't have to delete anything, you don't have to do edit undo, you can move things around a few times to see if it works, and then when you're ready to do it, you can actually flatten the image and it puts them together. So I found that super helpful, especially with some of the other things you're talking about. Text entry is a big one for me because on the image itself, you don't want it to be permanent. So putting it on that layer and moving it around to exactly where you want and then flattening makes a lot of sense to me. Just in case it's helpful in case you make a mistake, because sometimes people make mistakes and then the cursor goes away and now you can't move the text anymore, well then you're shot. You have to just edit undo, and that's a pain sometimes.
And that's in that software center.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. On the left side here is all the tools, and then down here in the bottom left-hand corner is actually the color palette. So you can actually create whatever colors you want. If you have the RGB values, you can actually go over here to more and create it, whatever color. And that's one of the features I really enjoy, is that I like to keep up with that because I use the colors for the school. So the university provides you with their color palette as well as secondary colors in case you don't want to keep using the same colors. They have a sheet that they can provide you with, so you can actually grab those colors as well. I would be willing to go into more depth on this if you'd like at a later time. I think this is at a high level. This is going to probably be helpful, but I wouldn't go too much beyond that for now. And I learned everything I know about Paint.net by just fumbling around in it. So if you wanted, you guys could actually go and learn it on your own, or feel free to reach out to Chris or I.
Are these the colors the colors?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, there you go. They find it.
All right. So that is Screenshot and Paint.net. Now, this is something, Adobe Metadata, that someone presented to me recently that I did not know about myself. But when you open a PDF file, you can actually, let's go, where's my recent? There you go. Something that I did not know, no, I don't want this to be my old application, is that sometimes you can actually attach metadata, which is like data you don't actually see initially, like when you're reading the document, but it actually is attached to the file. This came up actually because Blake had a PDF, and the PDF had, when you open the viewer within the web browser, it actually had a little snarky message on it. And he was really concerned because he's like, I don't want to send this snarky message out to people. And so I didn't actually originally know how to get rid of it. So in, let's see here, edit PDF, what I actually did was I found the answer for him, which is when you go into File and you go to Properties, you can actually put the metadata here. You can put a title for your file, and you can put the author, subject, and you can put some keywords in here. But the person, I guess, was surprised at what they found in the PDF, so they put their, like, you know, they put a message about how surprising the results were. And the problem is when he opened the PDF in the browser here, let's see if I got a PDF sitting around here. I know we got thousands of them. I'm not going to be able to find one when I'm looking now. There you go. Let's do that one. So when it popped up right here at the top section of the viewer, that's where the message was. So as soon as somebody clicked on it to go look at the file, it had the message right up there at the top, and he wanted to find a way to get rid of it because he didn't want that up there. So I don't know too many people that actually use that, honestly. So I was a bit surprised to see it, but if it appears, then you know how to go in there and delete it now, so you don't have to worry about that stuff.
We had that issue when the same group of people was using the same template over and over again, just stripping out all of the other details. So whatever Word originally had for the document that was created, every document from then on contained the same title in that, so we had to purge it and start over again with this.
Interesting. And please feel free, if you guys have questions, we could cover other material too. I was just trying to go through what I have available while you're here. Are you familiar with canned responses? Yes. Nancy, you familiar? So let's check this out. A lot of times, it is. A lot of times when people send out emails, they have templates because you send a lot of, for your project, most likely you send a lot of emails, and you have these set emails that you have to send on every project. So what I've seen a lot of people do is they'll actually create like a Word document and they'll save that somewhere as a template. Then they'll open that document and then they'll paste it over in the email and then they send the email out. That takes a bunch of steps and then you have to go through searching for it. One of the things that we have available in Gmail is we can actually use what are called canned responses. So in order to get canned responses, you actually have to go to the gear here in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Once you do that, you're going into settings. So within settings, you'll have labs. And labs actually have a number of tools that I'd recommend that you guys look into. Currently, in my current browser, I'm utilizing the canned responses and the preview pane and the calendar gadget. So the calendar gadget actually pops up here in the bottom left-hand corner, and it gives you an additional way to see what's going on with your calendar without having to have the calendar open. The preview pane is what's giving me the ability to look at emails before I actually open it. So, what's that? And then the last one here is canned responses.
Labs is it's a tool within.
So to Chris's point, I appreciate you asking that question, Nancy. Google has something called Labs, and what Labs are is they are tools that people develop, and then they submit them to be entered in Labs. And then what Google does is they allow people to look in Labs and determine whether or not they want to use them. If they do want to use them, they start using them, and Google pays attention to what gets used and what doesn't. If it ends up being a tool that people don't really care about and they let it kind of disappear, then they let it disappear. If it's something that gets a lot of traction and people start to use it, Google adopts it. So right now, canned responses is, as far as my understanding, is still in the lab stage. And I think actually the preview pane, I've learned recently, has been adopted. So you can actually do that outside of labs now, but I just never shifted it. But so right here, if you look, you notice how on the left side is where my emails are, and on the right side I have this information. If I click on this, it'll automatically pop up my email on the right side. And I can scroll through it, click through it, all like it's active and live.
Did you ever have Microsoft Outlook before this? So it's exactly like that. You know how Outlook had your emails in one, you can click on one and it pops up in the other window? Same exact idea.
So we would activate in Labs. You would hit the little button here to enable it. Remember, there's a bunch of other tools, but once it's enabled, what it does is when you create an email here, you'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner there's a little tiny arrow right here, and it says More Options. When you click More Options, canned responses appear. And so there's nothing in here now because I haven't saved one. So what we could do is, just as an example, if I'm going to send this message right here out to all kinds of people, and I know I'm going to send it out for every single one of my projects, and I go say, okay, this is my Toastmasters project. What I can do is, in the bottom right-hand corner, I can actually go to canned responses, and I can save that as a new canned response, and it says, hey, what do you want to do with this? And I can go, okay, well, I'm going to call this my Toastmaster project template. Now what happens is when I hit OK, is this has now been saved as a templated email. So I can delete this out real quick here just to show you. And when I go to compose, if I go down to the bottom right-hand corner again, go to canned responses, Toastmaster appears. And so I scroll right up here, I click it, and it auto-populates everything.
So how about labels? Can you do a subject line? Because, like, instead of me having to type engineering and fisheries lab window replacement project number, blah, 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 blah. Can I just create a label and then put that into the subject line?
So are you asking, like, if I wanted to do something like this where I go, you know, insert project name or something?
And then you could go down.
It would save it?
Because in that little arrow down, it had labels. That little arrow that you showed.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yes, but that's actually attaching labels to this email. So these labels are the labels that are the folders here on the side.
So you can't, you know, because, I mean, we are constantly emailing about a particular project.
Yes.
So it'd be really nice to not have to do that all the time.
Well, the trick is like, to answer your question, yes, labels can do that, but I want to make sure that I'm actually touching on what you're asking, because I can put labels on things, as many labels as I want. If I wanted to send an email to Sheree about this session, I can actually put the AMA label on it, and then I can say the date, I can create a label for the date, and I can create a label for something else, and I can submit it to her. Now, when she gets it, it'll have those labels on it, but they appear like on the left side of the screen, like right here, you'll see the labels across here. So right here, CAPM, that's a label. So when it gets sent, they'll see a label, CAPM, on here, but it'll be just right here. That's it. And then I can put whatever labels. It can be CAPM, Ask Me Anything, 329, 18.
You know, well, I'm just thinking of, like, I could have thousands of emails I send and receive.
Yes.
And then I can label them to a particular, I don't do that anymore because the longer email exists, the more and more emails you get on. So you cannot, you would spend your entire lifetime organizing your email.
Well, and one of the things is,
it would be really nice to do that. Pull a subject line right into that box, you know, when you compose. Oh, that would be handy. You know, subject, and then you would have a bunch of subjects. And you could just
okay, yeah, no, that's not what this is, but no, it's a good point. Now, they could search, and that's one of the things I tend to try and recommend to people is that here on the left side of the screen, you'll see that I have a BA folder, a Bluebeam folder, communication. Now, in Gmail, folders and labels are treated fairly similarly, but I tell people I could set up a communication email, and then I could put 20 different labels on it. And that's supposed to be helpful for when you're trying to do searches, because like you said, you have thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon, you know, ad infinitum.
You know, if I have a project that goes on for 3 years, I could have just a load, and then it would be nice to be able to capture them all in both the sent and received file. And see, like in Outlook, all you had to do was query, as long as you had the project number, and then you could capture them all into one file. And instead of moving them individually. You could actually, if you wanted to, you can actually set up a label that's based on project number. And you can see that on there. No, I know. And then you can get it. And I've set that up before, but oh my God, it's just like takes too long. And if somebody doesn't put the project number in the email, which I tell them they should do every time I start a project, but they don't, then you've got to manually get it over to them. So let me touch on something with you here. Well, to be clear, I think your idea is great, and I want to elaborate on that a little bit. Let's take this down a little bit further than I intended to. So there is something you can do that you might not be doing right now, which is filters. Yeah, I know. So what you can do with filters, though, is that if you wanted to, you can actually put whatever the number is or whatever in it, you know, 01-011. I don't know, like one of the numbers, but you can actually filter the message, and you can set the filter so that it finds the project number and then affixes the project number label to it. So you can tell it to search in the subject line or in the to line or has the words. You can put that specific project number there, and then you don't have to search it in someone's email. When they send it to you, it searches and goes, oh, I found the number, boop, it has that label on it. No, and then it's good if they use it. If they don't, then it's something else. But well, it's on your email. I was just thinking there might be you could have an actual subject line title already set up. So when you go to send a message, you can just hit this is for this project.
Like a drop-down or something.
You know, a drop-down menu, but it does.
Yeah, we don't, you're right, we don't have it. But I want to clarify and make sure
So
that
you don't have to retype the same, because, you know.
that makes sense. To clarify, I want to make sure that that we're on the same page with this. When someone sends you an email, this filter is set up to automatically affix the label to it. They wouldn't have to affix the label to it. So if they forget to put the label that you want on it, you can set a filter up so when they send it, it automatically reads the email and goes, nope, this is supposed to have this label.
If they have the project number in somewhere.
Correct. Or you can put other keywords though. You could put the name, title of the project. You could create the project number.
Yeah, and
whatever you want to put.
I've done that before, because I do have like old projects that I've had set up. Boy, that taken. Sometimes when people don't do that, you have to go through all the email and then you have to collect it. And we used to actually download the emails from Google into Outlook. And then upload them.
Well, see, what's really sad for me is that people tend to fault Gmail and say, well, Outlook's so much better and Gmail can't do these things. The problem is that's not necessarily the case. The difficulty is that the way the university has it set up, our security is set up so we can't use add-ons. And the problem is there is a significant number of add-ons that do a lot of really valuable things that we can't access. And that's one of the big issues. Like, one of the first things I noticed when I got here is we don't have read receipts. And I was very surprised by that. Well, Gmail offers it. The university just declined it. They said we're not, the admin said we're not doing that. Because I worked in collections for years, and I loved it. Because when you would send somebody an email, if they threw it away without looking at it, it sends you a read receipt back and tell you that. Recipient threw it away without looking at it. And you're like, so when they come back and say, hey, Stefan, I never got this. This is on you. And you go, here you go, screenshot. Poof, there you go. This is when you threw it away. Oh, I'm sorry, Stefan. And we're like, yeah, I know. So,
which happens a lot to us. Journal journal service providers.
And maybe that's why they got rid of it.
Never open your email.
All right. So, and then for canned responses, there's 3 different options here. And you'll see Toastmaster project appears 3 times. One is when you're going to insert into an email. One is saving it. So if you type and you're going, oh man, that's a typo. You type over the top of it, you can save over. You can overwrite your original email. And then the last one is if you want to delete that. And so I'm going to delete the canned response out. And I'll ask you if you did want to delete it. Because obviously you did a lot of hard work on it. They don't want you to get rid of it if that's not your intention. So that is canned responses. And in case you didn't know, we'll cover this too. If you have a canned response, you can actually set it up so that it auto-replies to people. So in your example, if you have a project and there's some aspect of a project that happens every time and you wanted to set up like an auto-confirmation, you can actually set that template up in your filters. So we'll just do filter message like this. When you go to create filter search, you can go right here and send a canned response. So you can set it up so that as soon as someone emails you, they get a response in return. And you determine what it is. And so, one of the things I've said in the past that I want to do is set up an automatic response for Compass password reset. Because a lot of times people ask for the Compass password to be reset. I can't do anything with it. All I'm going to do is refer them to a specific location. So I can set it up with my email. So as soon as I type in the search parameters, Compass password reset, if someone types that in, then it'll read the email, go, oh, that's what they're trying to do. And I can set it up with a link that goes, hey, check this out. And then it'll automatically send that to them in response.
You put it on the hub, though, too.
Can, absolutely. It is currently on there. Thank you for plugging the internet. I appreciate that. So it is already on there.
It is on there? It is. So where is it?
Yep. So let's go review that real quick.
Because that's something that we only do once every 6 months. We kind of have a tendency to forget where to go to redo it.
So, yeah, that's why we have ours right on our front page of our intranet.
See?
Forgot your Compass password?
And maybe that's what we're going to have to do. So it actually is an IT help.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to go IT help, and it says one of the first ones, WebEx instructions, VPN instructions, Compass password reset.
Okay, cool.
So when you click through, it'll automatically redirect you to where you need to be. And I'm already logged in, so it actually already starts for me. So all I have to do is click right there.
Yeah, because that is just something we don't remember. I don't know why, but we don't remember how to do it.
And I think I went over this in our latest project delivery meeting, but I want to go over it again just to make sure everyone's on the same page with this. I added a sheet now on our slider here, on the front page slider, and this is just updates that occur on the intranet. And the reason why I did that is oftentimes people have told me in the past that things change and nobody knows about it. And so my hope is that I'll create this page, and I'm going to try and toy around with it and see how long we keep it. I'm thinking we'll hold things for about 30 days, and then after that time, I'll take it off this page and put it into our archive. But this way, I'm going to put through and put links here, and it's like, hey, this is what's changed, who changed it, so that way you guys can follow up if you have a question on it. So if somebody's like, hey, you know, why do you have this? We can go, okay, well, Pam created this, so we can go touch base with Pam and see why she created it.
You know, one thing I'd like to know is, do you automatically, because the hub or whatever knows your password, can get into this site? How come this isn't passworded?
It's a good question. It is password protected, but it's based on you logging into your Gmail account. So it's single sign-on. So if you're logged in, so here, that's a good question. So right here, I'll log in.
That's what I want to make sure, because a lot of the stuff shouldn't be public information.
Exactly. So here I'm logging into a different browser that I'm not logged into. So if I go to z.umn.edu/Kaplan intranet, when I try and do that, it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, it doesn't look like you're logged in.
Okay, good. That's what I thought. You probably had it set up so it automatically did it if you were a member of CAPM and you were,
it's not, I can still show you that too. So as part of me editing it here, I have the ability to share this with people, and I can set their rights for sharing. So things really irritating me today with how slow it is. So right here is where I can share with others. So to your point, you're absolutely right. It's not something we're at the point where we'd like to share with everyone yet. So looks like anyone can find and view. I shared it with just the team right here, except for I just noticed as we're discussing this that it looks like I don't have it set up here to where specific people. So now I resolved it. Thank you. So.
Yeah, because like the border region stuff, there's some stuff that they just don't.
Exactly.
However, they do need to be able to get into our CAPM website to get proposal forms and stuff like that.
And I completely agree with you about this not being shared information, because one of the things we actually have on here is the vacation calendars, and that's not something we want televised by any standard. But I'm trying to look into, do you have any information on this? Can I change the colors of the calendars that are on here?
You should be able to.
So right now, the way I have it set up, this is a vacation calendar, and this item right here is actually for completely different. So these two are actually different items. These are the Regents calendar, and that's the Kaplan vacation calendar. And I was like, I really want to change that so that they don't show up the same color.
Okay, so what color did you set them as in the vacation calendar itself?
That's a good question.
If you go back there, you might be able to change that.
I'm pretty sure.
Because if they're both using the default color and it hasn't been changed.
I think that's what the issue is. Yep. Thank you.
Wouldn't that be different from person to person, though?
It is, but what she's talking about is going into the settings for the actual calendar itself. So the vacation calendar that we all have access to, and changing the default here. So in the Kaplan vacation calendar, it's going to have a default setting when you go into settings and sharing. If I'm understanding you correctly. So we should be able to go in here and find the default. But yes, Chris, in general, you can change it to whatever color you want for you, so that people can change it. I was trying to see. Well, I guess.
Yeah, it's usually over, but maybe.
Let's see. I'll open it again right here and see what it does. That one. All right, let's get out of settings real quick. Okay, so that's right there. Let's go here. Okay, so it is doing it. But so this is showing up as red. And when you look at it in here, it is showing up as the default blue. So I'm not sure why it is that way. So it's something to look into. I just thought you might have an answer for it just initially.
Not off the top of my head.
So it's very interesting for me. All right, so that's the intranet. And that's one of the things that I really have enjoyed about this a lot. Just so you know, with the intranet, we had the option of actually going with a Google site or a Drupal site, as well as a Drupal Lite site. One of the things that we really enjoyed the most about this is how straightforward the process was with regards to modifying it. So if something happened to Chris and I, we just disappeared, the team could actually ask Sheree or Lolita for help, but it would take them about 5 minutes to train somebody to replace us. I mean, it really is straightforward on how you guys can actually update this, correct? Lolita, have you met Nancy and Kelly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kelly, what's that?
Hi, nice to meet you, Kelly.
Kelly is joined our team as a new space planner.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome. Thank you.
And Lolita is in training and development.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, me too.
So,
Are you in a webinar?
we are. I've been trying to
do that
accommodate as many people as I can, and so it gives us the ability to create a recording, and then I can put it on a YouTube link and put it on our website, our intranet now, so that way people that can't attend can actually listen.
And here I am asking the question.
Very nice. I apologize to mention.
Do you mind being recorded?
I apologize. I forgot about that. I did. So, Lolita, do you mind?
I thought maybe you were just showing them something. I didn't know for sure. But
Nope.
Yeah.
Absolutely being recorded. Hey, George. Just so you know, we're being recorded. Not a video of the room, but the audio, so that way the recording can actually be placed on the internet. People that didn't attend.
Job. Thank you.
Thank you, George. So, we already covered the idea that there's a new section in here, but I'll mention it just in case, George, you hadn't heard, is that now there's a new section within our slider here at the very end, which is nothing more than updates that have occurred on the intranet. So anything that we've updated, a new document added, something that's been modified, my intention is to put this up here so you can, as a team, can go up there and go, hey, what's changed? What do I need to know? In case somebody hadn't actually communicated that to us. This is just an additional kind of quality assurance. So it's like, my intention is to work with Chris so that we, anytime one of us updates anything on here, we put a note up here. So that way everybody knows it's been updated. And if nothing else, I want to put the date and the name of the person. So that way, when it's changed, if you don't have clarity on why it was changed or what's up there, you have a contact person to reach out to, and you can find out why. So,
does it,
go ahead.
Then, does she change these forms recently?
Correct. They're new forms. She cited that there is she was trying to create additional forms that were not sole source. Correct. So I put in here where you can find these, but these are also hyperlinks directly to the forms. But you can find them in contracts, under AIA contracts, and then there are the proposals right here.
Was that the only change she made, is take sole source out of it?
I'm not sure. I actually haven't opened the file, so I don't want to speak incorrectly here. I'm not sure. She changed these. She added these two documents, but we retained the other ones. The sole source are still there. She didn't replace them. She just added these. And then the vendor list here was added.
Question, will her updates, as she edits this, continue to link to your reference, or? That's
my intention, if I can keep up with it. I'm not saying that we won't have mistakes happen, but I thought this would be a really great ad for the website, is that people like you, George, that tend to be really meticulous with this, is you can go to a centralized location and find out all the updates. But to answer your question, I think what you're probably asking me is how long these will stay up here. About a month is my intention for now. And then what I intended to do was take this and dump the log into another file, like an archive, so that way it's never lost, but it's not all jumbling up one slide.
So in real time, after our meeting we had the other day, I met with Pam and pointed out that the footer still had the sole source reference.
Oh, so as soon as she updates me on that.
She's going to update that again. She wasn't going to do it right away, but I didn't know if someone's looking at your link, if they're going to pick up on the new correction?
Most likely, I think we'll take it under our discretion. I probably would not make note of that. I would probably link it to the correct document, but a minor change between the two, I probably wouldn't put that update on there because they're so close.
She tell you and Chris that she's updating it?
Well, she can't actually touch the intranet. She doesn't have edit access. So once she edits it, she'll have to inform us and provide us with the document.
Good. Fail safe.
So, yes, sir. but thank you for keeping up with that too. That's going to be super beneficial. And then to your question, I hadn't thought about that, but I will try and find a location where I can actually create that. When I create the archive of all those changes, then I'll try to link it back in the intranet so that everyone has access to it. So that way it's not just one person controlling it. You'll always have the ability to go back in and go, okay, that's where that happened. So I think that's it for that. Any other questions? No? So far we've gone over Greenshot, Paint.net, Adobe Metadata, canned responses, and then I actually have a couple of other things I can go over here, but I want to make sure that you guys don't have questions you would like to cover because I don't want to hold you if you need to go for a meeting or anything like that. George, any questions you have? Would you like to cover? No? Okay. All right. With that in mind, I'm going to highlight the canned responses and say we covered that, and then I'm going to change the order of these two real quick so that we can go over this one first because I think that people will find more interest in this. So Google version history. Is anybody familiar with Google version history? No? Okay, good. That makes it easier for us. So with one of the things I really enjoy about Google Files in general is that they have what's called version history. So what version history is, whenever you go into a document, whether it be, I've never actually tried it on slides, but I know it works on Google Documents and Google Sheets. What you can do is you can go into File, and then you can actually go down to version history. And what version history is it actually gives you a date timestamp for any time someone has modified your document. This is super helpful if you have documents that you have a number of people sharing with you, because if someone accidentally goes in and messes up your document or like deletes out huge blocks of text that you didn't want them to mess with, you can actually look here on the right side of the screen and you can revert it back to whenever you want. So it actually, I have never seen an end to this. I've seen documents that are 2 years old that have date timestamps with people's names on it, all the way back. Every single major modification. So you'll see right here on March 19th at 11:04, I created this document. I modified it on the 11:10, modified it at 7:57. Then Friday, I did it again, and here we are today. I'm actually in the file. And you can actually go in and revert it back to that model. So if I wanted to take this all the way back here, I can left-click here and say, oh, well, there you go, it's blank. That's when I first started the document. And I can set it to restore to that version. So I go, okay, I don't know who was typing in my document, but we're going to fix this real quick. I can left-click right there and restore it back to that version. The only people that can actually toy with the version history are people that actually have the original document in the edit access. So.
Good.
Now, what you can also do, and this is something that I recently noticed because it was a modification. Google is notorious for changing things and not sending out a notification to you that they've changed them. So originally, the only thing you had available in version history was what we just saw there, the date and timestamps. Now, Google has done something where you can actually name a version. So if you're at a certain phase in the project or you have a certain stop date or something like that where you can say, hey, it's important that I have captured this specific time period, you can actually name that revision. And you go, okay, well, this is, we'll name it, and we'll say this is the AMA 3/29/18 at 2:54 p.m. That was important for me to have this specific date and time because I feel like I covered some material that needs to be, called out there. Well, now that actually exists in my version history. So when I go down here and I go say see version history, I'll see one specifically titled what I wanted it to be now. So if I ever need to, months or years down the road, I want to come back, I can actually come back to this specific point. And remember, I told you, you can click on it and see what was changed at that time. So right here at 8:20 this morning, I actually had originally Google Sheets version history, and I said, well, I want to take this to a much broader level, so I deleted that out. So that's what's denoted there. Stefan deleted this out. And you know it's Stefan because of the color right there. That green matches my green. So if you have other users in documents, which I probably should just go ahead and grab another document so that way you guys get a better shot at it. So we'll do the website issue log, Chris, because you and I have been both in there quite a bit. So the issue log. So the website issue log is pretty extensive here. And this is in Google Sheets. So remember, like most Google documents have, or most Google applications have this now. When I go into File, go down to version history, Chris and I have been working extensively in this. So when we go through, you're going to see considerably more information. That's why it's actually working to try and get it up here. So me, there's Chris, there's me again, there's Chris, and so we're going back months at this point, months and months and months. And there's Sarah, she made an edit here. At this time, Chris and I both were in it working. Here's Mark Partridge. So, and then when I click on this, I can actually go back and go, hey, what's been changed? It looks like the green right here is Stefan making changes. Stefan again, orange. That's Sarah. She was making modifications. Blue, Mark added all this stuff. So it's all in here, and you can see it. And this, what you see right here, is exactly as it existed at that time. So if it's been modified since then, when I click on this right here, I get to see what it looked like at that time period. So you don't have to actually even revert it. You can just go back and look. So if you wanted to keep something for your records, you can look at it and go, hey, this is what it looked like on that day. And that's why the named version history is really important, is so you can take a snapshot at specific times that you're interested in. And like I said to you before, I've been working in Google for quite some time in previous work. I've never seen it disappear. I mean, as long as the file's not deleted completely, the version history is going to be attached to it. So I can completely delete everything out of this file and then out of this document and then come back to it, and I can go back and revert to it whenever I wanted to. Even if I just keep it blank for the next 2 years, I can come back to these time points and look at what it looked like at these time points. So let's see. So that's the version history. Let's get back out of here. I can check the slideshow. I've never actually looked to see if slideshow has a version history. That actually seems pretty cool. Customarily, they're pretty straightforward. Google is with keeping things pretty similar. So I'd imagine that if we need to look for it, we should be able to find it in just the file section right here. So I'll click on it. I might not have access to this. I don't think this is my file. Yep, right here, slides. There you go. So basically every Google application has this. So that's really neat. Especially for people like me, you can passive-aggressively go in and look at class projects where people change your slideshow and you didn't want to and just go back and change it like they never did. So that's what I got for this. Any questions? I guess while we're here, one of the things that I've not really seen much of, but I think would be really beneficial is that we can actually use Google Documents more for workflow help too. And I know not many people are actually doing that, but here as an example, if you have a Google Doc right here and you wanted to create tables or you want to set up a task list of everything that everybody needs to work on, Google actually has this really neat function that they just created. Well, it's not just created, it's been a little while, but where people can actually set up assigned tasks. So I'll say, here's a task here, and here's the description, things like that, and I go, okay, let's schedule AMA, and ask me anything. And then for the responsible person, I guess it works better when you actually spell it correctly. You can actually create something here where you actually go in and you create a comment. When you create the comment, one day, you can do it. I can actually go in and put @ and Chris's X500, and when it does that, it says, hey, do you want to assign this to Chris? And if I click to assign it to Chris, it sends Chris an email and says, hey, Stefan wants you to do this. I wouldn't do it if I was you either. But what's neat is you can actually do this in all the Google applications. You can do the same thing. So if it's a situation where you're not coming up with this really pretty table, which I know is fantastic, you guys are impressed, then you can actually just do it on a slide, or you can do it on a specific section on a slide, or you can say, hey, George, I want you to look over the grammar on this. Does this look okay? And then it shoots out an email and connects them through this specific thing. So there's a lot. Go ahead.
How do you title the document? Because right now it's untitled.
I would just click right here. And it'll auto-grab the very first information that's on the page. So I can say if this is my AMA task list, and put a date, whatever it is, 3/29/18. Then there it is, and now this exists as it is. And if I send to Chris, it would send out an email to him as soon as I set up that comment and go, there you go. And one thing I think is super beneficial, I use this for school a lot, is that you noticed when we actually clicked right here, there's actually notifications too. I can click and set this up right here, which is anytime somebody touches this document, I get an email. And it says, hey, guess what? Chris looked at your task that you assigned for him, and he typed something in here, and then it has a little brief blurb that says what he did. You can do it for everybody. You can do it for only yours, and you can do it for none. So only yours being, if you want to itemize things, you can set it up to kind of keep track of what you're doing, and so that way you can just set it to filter and be like, okay, I do all my stuff in this spreadsheet, and it sends me a bunch of emails, and I automatically archive them. So if somebody comes back and says, hey, Stephen, would you modify this? And go, well, here's my confirmation, my email confirmation. I did this on this and this date. Here's the email Google sent me confirming it. So super helpful if you're doing something project related and you're asking somebody to do something for you and you don't want to have to sit and constantly look at it, because true, you can find it in revision history or you can see if they did it, but this you can set it up, and this is any document that Google has, Google Slideshow, Google Sheets, Google Docs. You can set all of those up, so it will send you an email when anybody modifies it. So it's pretty neat. Like I said, it'll send you the email and it'll have a brief excerpt of what they did. So you don't have to actually look through all of it. You could actually just look at the brief excerpt. Unless it's extensive. If it's extensive, then it'll just do like one brief excerpt. So that is everything to do with this. All right. This actually, when you just randomly create a new document, the first thing it does is it sends it to your drive. I think I created this one inside here. I want to go in and delete that out. Chris already told me he's not going to do the task, so there's no sense in keeping the document alive. It's just going to be disappointing. So that's one of the things I have told people, though, in general, is that if someone actually deletes your folder, like your file altogether, then it does delete your version history and everything associated with that. Now, with that in mind, just so you know, if someone does delete it, OIT does backup documents through Google. Everything's on our servers. So if you reach out to IT help, within a range of time, I think it's less than 30 days, they can restore your documents. So if someone else deleted it, you can get it back. So let's move on. I'll do one more thing, and then that way it looks like we're at the halfway point. You guys can...
I'm just going to let you get through all your things first and ask you a couple.
Oh, please do.
Well, can we ask stuff about Unifier or no?
I would love for you to ask about Unifier. I wish I would have touched base with you when Kevin was in here, because I don't know that I have the expertise to answer it. But if you provide me with those questions, I will follow up with Kevin and get you the answers. But we can try and go through them. But I'm pretty sure I'm not going to know.
About your changes, you know, and somebody said you were gonna put the options, you know, like help, like in that one where it says how is the project help, and you were going to define what you need to put in there.
Yes.
Can you, in that, the way you set that page up, put the options next to the?
I think that
next to the blank that you're trying to infill,
so
that you don't have to write a separate key, you know, instructions on how to enter that data.
Well, that's a fair question. I think that and this is, I know Scott wanted us to go in a little more depth in the training, but until it's live, I want to make sure to be clear, is like we don't know exactly how it's going to operate until Kevin goes live and we make sure that it operates that way. But what he was actually trying to say is that it's not necessarily that the radio buttons aren't going to be there, so you're like directly next to that information, allowing you to like drop it down. The issue is that there's a bit of subjectivity at times, because it's like you put the information into a space there. It's like how people interpret that could be different, and I think that's what he was going for.
I think that's what they were going to have. They were going to have instructions on what they're looking for in the data that's put in any of those. So I'm thinking, well, if that's the case, either you have an option to select, like, is it in good health, excellent health, good health, bad health,
So
it's dead.
It's a really good point. And so if you go to, right now, it exists. I'm not trying to promote this too much because it's not live yet. So I really don't want it, I don't want people to be frustrated. We're like, yeah, I'm not going to go sit and train myself on the document, and this doesn't exist yet. And it's like I want to click through. But when it does go live, you can actually review the information right here on the new dashboard section within IT Help. So if you look at it, here at the bottom is the training manual that Kevin actually created. So I went too quickly there. So on IT Help, new dashboards, and you scroll to the bottom, you'll see new dashboard training manual. So when you pop that open, right here is discussing what you just mentioned, where when you actually look through, let's scroll down here.
Well, I was just saying then it would be, because what you're doing is you have a data template in a database, right?
Yes, I'm trying to make sure, like I want to clarify. So right here, there's 4 options for overall project health. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but they exist right there. So
what I was saying, like if you go to the information and you go, when you're actually doing that thing, that those things, instead of being on a cheat sheet, are right there.
I'm pretty sure they are drop downs, if that's what your question is.
Okay, they're going to be drop downs.
Yes, so they'd show as blank cells right now. I'm not positive though. That's why I wanted to double check. Like that was our request, is that that's the drop down. What this was for is not, it's not to tell you this is what you need to type in. It was supposed to be to give you kind of a brief amount of information to make sure that we're all on the same page. And that's where I was confused, is I was trying to tell you that the reason why they had these here is that one project manager's at risk might be another project manager's not proceeding as expected. So what we were trying to do is create this and go over it a little bit so we make sure that we're all kind of on the same page. There's still going to be a level of subjectivity to it, but we want to make sure that when it goes live, we have as much clarity as we can.
And the reason also why I asked about the project phase information, and Sarah said, well, if those phases aren't entered, it just isn't going anywhere, but that's not necessarily true. And that's why I was asking if indeed you could put not applicable to certain phase, you know, because sometimes they look at, they think that this project is going to go all the way through. Well, nobody's ever going to fund it for anything more than a pre-design study.
And to clarify, what Sarah was mentioning was from a data standpoint. What she was saying is that if you don't put anything in at all, it'll say null value, and so it'll read it as null value. So she was just saying that it wouldn't show up in the reporting.
Yeah, now what I think would be good for management to know is whether something's going to move forward. You know what I mean, George? Does that make sense? Well, like if there's maybe then a separate line item that says this is only funded through a study, because it really doesn't tell them that anyplace else.
I think the issue is that what they were requesting is that when you initially set it up, you put the forecast dates for all the phases you anticipate there will exist, and so the null values would kind of communicate what you were saying, which is they would not have those on there. So because the other phases wouldn't actually have information in them, it wouldn't be anticipated.
This is actual dates, and the forecasting dates are only give you one block. The new information will be it's the same. Okay.
So it'll be
forecasted and actual.
But it's all the same. So to clarify, it's one block of those phases, and then you're supposed to fill all of them out that you're going to go through with the forecasted dates, and then when you find out the actual dates, you're supposed to go back in and modify them with the actual dates. That's the way it's set up currently. But it's a good question. Thank you. Okay. Do you have other questions? We can try and cover those too. You mentioned you might have a few questions. That's what I was asking.
Well, I had one about Unifier, but the other stuff is just what we discussed yesterday, and if anybody's going to kind of review that and see.
Nancy, I think what's important about the push-out date is what I heard is it'll start with new projects being set up, and when that's working well, they'll go back to other older active projects and try to roll them into the new system.
Yes, sir.
unless they're sunsetting, right?
Mm-hmm. No, the intention is we don't want to lose that historic data. You're right. So the issue is as part of the project going forward, we wanted to get this implemented and find a way to initiate it, which it makes sense to start with the ongoing project, like as soon as we go live with the projects that are actually ongoing rather than historic projects or old projects, and then try and set up a work plan for that with like Chris and I helping out to go back in and kind of manually data enter all those.
To clarify, what I'm hearing is that I heard it as all active projects.
Yes, sir.
Will be converted to the new data reporting.
Yes, sir.
But within those active projects, new ones that are launched after a certain date will start out having the new data.
Yes, sir.
But the mistake that could be made by the employees entering it is, was this under the new or the old data rollout? Because if I start updating projects that are active like last year but still active, and then you roll it later, it'll wipe out that information. So I will have entered the data, such as the milestones, only to have them populated with a new cell, which will be blank.
That's a good point. We haven't gone live yet. We will notify everybody when we do.
Right, and it's going to be go live with new ones, go live with everything active, sort of like
yes, sir.
A 2 rollouts?
Well, we can discuss that a little bit more later. I want to make sure that I see where you're going with that, and I don't want to misspeak. And I thought that it was all active projects and new projects would be on there, but if you have a different interpretation, then we can discuss that.
Usually in the past they've tried setting up new rollouts by, Kevin has typically indoctrinated into new ones rolling out. Like we just had an initiated project.
Yes.
So everything going forward from a certain date has the new information. But I'm hearing too, he wants to go back separately. It takes a little more work to make the older projects that were under the old data tracking, to roll them into the new is a little more work.
He's rolling them in though, and my understanding was that if there's data in the old projects that we are asking for of the new ones, it isn't our obligation to fill that information.
And that's what we'll need clarification.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you too. I think we should definitely make sure and clarify with them.
The one thing that if you're doing a Unifier upgrade, does that mean they'll upgrade all sorts of stuff or just a few things?
The Unifier upgrade should have already been completed. But I think this will be our last one. I don't think we'll do it again because we're only recontracted for another year, at which time we're supposed to transition to Dryriga. So I think we won't see any more updates. Don't hold me to that, but it's like the intention is not to move forward with.
And so we won't lose our data.
My understanding is what they're supposed to do is do a data dump where they grab everything and put it into a database. Because of the way it operated is Unifier was not open to assisting us with this. So all they're going to do is allow us to pay for grabbing it through the back door and putting it in our own database and keeping up with it, at which time our relationship will cease with them. I haven't gotten that finalized yet. I'm not positive. This is kind of rumor and conjecture I've heard, but that's my understanding.
It's so funny because it's in certain things that you do in Unifier that are assigned, projects assigned to you, you still have to enter your name.
Yeah.
For like a PO, and it's kind of like, or the project coordinator does, and it's like, well, this project is yours. It should autofill the data, and it does.
Well, I think some of the distinctions are is that some of the forms were set up to be generic, so that you could actually assign it to someone else for those things in case that comes up. So I believe that to be what the discussion is here, but I'm not positive.
No, because it would be your project. Who's the project manager, it asks for. So you are the project manager.
Okay, then I was off.
Project, so why isn't it just autofill like that?
So I would have to defer to Kevin on this one then, because I'm not positive on that. I am definitely not the deep specialist on Unifier, but I do try and back him up on things. So, any other questions? I have a couple of more things I can go over.
On future topics, I'd like to go over the MBID.
Okay.
And its future for Capum.
Definitely submit that through the Ask Me Anything. I'll have to touch base with the purchasing team because I don't know. I explained it to you. I don't know much about it myself. So
I was able to register today.
Were you?
Yes.
Excellent.
And I did screenshots of what I registered. I can send those to you.
Okay. If you feel it's beneficial, yes. I mean, I'm not familiar with the system at all. I know of it conceptually and what it does, but I haven't ever had a real need to push into that, because if something did happen, like where you were trying to register, I'm going to have to go talk to someone else that's a specialist in that, because I don't have any background in that tool. But I'm glad that you found it useful and that you're able to log in.
Well, I have an active project in there right now, so I have.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So, because it says for suppliers, embed.
Right, you have to just look past that.
Oh.
And that's why I was going to go over what choices I had to make when I registered.
Mm-hmm.
So I put enough information in there so that they could actually validate who I was.
Yes, sir.
And then I selected the construction category, and what I was looking for popped up. I didn't want to open it up to all categories, because then I'd be getting 50 emails at a time.
You're not open to 50 emails at a time? I mean...
I have a limit.
How does embed work?
So, if we don't have any other questions, I was going to show you guys a couple more things we have at our disposal. We can go over Google Forms. Thanks for coming. I also have Google Keep and Google Sites we could go over. Google Keep is something that Sheree actually introduced me to, and I think it's great. If it's not something you already use, it's actually a note-taking tool and a task manager. I currently use it. I keep my own personal work to-do list. I have a personal to-do list. I have different links here for things that have come up over the time where I want to review them and come back. It's really straightforward how you do it. You can actually do searches here too. One of the reasons why I like this so much is I actually have work lists, and my work lists keep up with my past work. So December 2017, January 2018, February 2018, I have a list of tasks that I completed on those dates. And so if anybody ever came back to me and said, hey, Stefan, when did you get this done? And it was really critical, I can come back and actually look through here and find out what was going on. And I just selected a month. You could do it by week, but I didn't really see a benefit for me in doing it weekly. But you can actually do it as much as you want. And you could do it by day if you felt like it. I mean, but I actually recently heard a talk and read an article where this gentleman actually said that it's really beneficial to take 6 tasks and prioritize those the night before. So like tonight after we get done with work, go home, write up 6 tasks that you want to get done tomorrow, prioritize them and put them on your list, and then you start the first one and you try and complete that. And the ones you complete, you check off, they go away. You take the ones you don't complete, forward those to the next day, as well as whatever the additional ones were. So it's like an additional 3, 4, 5, however many got done. And then that way you just keep doing that. And then you can actually do it by, in this instance, I can have the whole list right here, and then I can just keep reprioritizing and go, here's my 6, and you just keep going until you get them all done. That's what I like to use it for. But what's interesting about this is, and I found it really intriguing, is you can set up reminders for this list. So I can set up an email reminder that says, hey, Stephanie, check out your list every Friday. And so you go, okay, look at it on Fridays. You can also collaborate. Since we're all Google users, I can actually set up a list where if I was working on a project with you, Kelly, I can actually say, hey, you and I are working on this thing with Ann, the succession documentation. You go, hey, I need your help. Could you split the work with me on this this sheet? I can actually set up tasks here, and I can share it with you, and we can both look at it and go, hey, I got this one done. Did you get this one done? And we can initial it whatever we wanted to. And then when it was done, we archive it. You can actually set up the palette here. I can set up different colors so that way visually when I look at it, it's all right here. It's really straightforward. I can set this for all the different colors here so that I know that, a note to review later is one color and a list of to-do items is actually purple, so I can set whatever I want here. One of the benefits is you can also do images too. I can actually add an image to the background for this. So if you want to add a little bit more aesthetic to it, I mean, it's really open to what you want to do. And as always, all of the Google applications are capable of integrating with each other. So this one specifically, I can put notes on this, I can add labels, I can add a drawing myself. Like I could actually do a drawing, like if you had some note you want to draw in your Google, like this is an application on your phone too. So I keep it on my phone, and if somebody said something to me like, oh, I can quick, write it here real quick, and then I can put that into here, and now they're integrated. So oftentimes if you see me and you see me jotting notes in a meeting or something like that, that's actually me bringing up my Google Keep, and then I can actually make a note on it immediately while it's ongoing. And so you saw I just changed it to purple. It's now purple on my phone. So everything is pretty close to real time updating. So I find it hugely beneficial. You can actually block recordings in here too. I mean, it's astounding what you can make notes on. And if you're actually a Chrome user, you can actually visit websites. And when you visit the website, if there's something you wanted to get back to, instead of doing what people normally do, which is like bookmarking a page, I can actually set Google Keep up and go, here's Russian to expel 60 U.S. diplomats as tensions worsen. I can actually click right here in my Google Keep and make a note of it, and I can say, show this to Liz. And Liz is my wife. So, and I say, show this to Liz, and I say enter, and I set it up. It automatically has a hyperlink to this document unless I tell it not to, and then I can say, oh, this is urgent. She needs to know about Russia. So as soon as I click off here, what you'll see is I go back to my Google Keep right here, and it's right here. I now have it. It's listed as urgent. Here's the link to it, and it tells me what I need to do. I need to show this to Liz. And Liz is actually a student here, so she has all the applications. So if I actually wanted to, I could have actually gone in here already and added her in and said, hey, here you go. Pops up on her to-do list of things to read. I'll cancel it out because I'm pretty sure she wouldn't care about that. If you pin things, it'll pin them up to the top here so that they stay on your important to-do list items.
So if you're working for CAPM and you had, similar to your job description, you're kind of over the organization of the structure of the business.
Yes, sir.
Where if you focus on, like, my role, which is project manager, I have repetitive tasks that come up on every project.
Yes, sir.
So if I was to set up something like this, I would want to be able to take the standard steps in a project, with the logical order of a project,
yes, sir.
And be able to click on it on a project and see if the tasks within it are done. Rather than have, Kelly, if you're working in space management and they want to record what they're doing per building, and let's say you save your buildings by building number.
Yes, sir.
You would want to have this organized by building, and then if currently you're updating the database on a particular building, or there's a remodel on the building and you're adding rooms, and you're refreshing the database or just doing whatever, you'd want to be able to go to that building, but there could be, I'm thinking in terms of file structure or folder structure.
Yes, sir.
There could be a lot of repetitiveness that could make you more efficient without having just a continuous to-do list that jumps back and forth from building to building to building to building, and you run the risk of not going back and finishing a task.
That's fair. What I would say, this is actually kind of a dashboard in nature, and there's multiple different ways you can do things. And one of the things I found most interesting is that if you get to the point where you're doing something repetitively, one of the things you actually have the ability to do is copy this to Google Docs. And so one thing I would mention to you is that, remember, like, this is linked back end or front end. So what we mentioned earlier is, like, what happens if we decide that we're going to create a Google document here that has this extremely long list of items that you want to keep up to date on, because you want to have a template so you can just keep copying and pasting the same template, and it says, this is the project, here's all the tasks associated with that project. What you can actually do is we can create that, you can actually create that tool here. So as an example, this isn't going to be aesthetically pleasing in any regard, but it's like, here's your task list, and it'd be for, such and such project. Remember that we actually have the ability to link through to this. So what you could actually use is that dashboard could actually be nothing more than a link through. So here it is, and you can say, here's the title of it. This is such and such project. Task list. And so when you do that, now you've added this to your dashboard. So when you go back here, you have it right here. So you go, oh, yeah, I need to look at the task list for this, and it links through to here. And so that way you're not punching up, like you said, I got to imagine you have thousands of tasks on these projects. So it doesn't seem reasonable to actually have this listed in the dashboard as that project. So it makes more sense to potentially use it more like this. So one of the really cool things about the Google applications in general is that you can use them in unique ways. And so thinking of different ways you can put them in there, even as we discussed it, I'd never thought about doing this, but I knew it was capable of it. And it makes sense in your instance because you could copy this Google document as many times as you want. So you could have 5 of these on your dashboard, and that's it. That's all you see is those 5 little blocks, and each one's the project name. And so you can go back to the dashboard, and instead of trying to create a spot to save it, it's right there. You can put it on your phone. You can put it on, you know, you can have it on your laptop. It's all right there. And your dashboard is just the little Google Keep symbol right there. And you're like, boop, 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 boop. You can go back. If somebody's on the phone with you and you're like, hey, where are we at with this, George? You go, all right, there we go. And you can scroll through it and you're like, oh, that was done. It was done on this date. So it's, I'm more than willing, if you have any interest in these tools whatsoever, sitting down and discussing with you to find out how these could actually be beneficial to you. Because it might not be the best tool for everybody. I agree, but I think oftentimes the difficulty is we use the vantage point we have on it, and if we're not an expert in it and the ability to like kind of think outside the box, we might eliminate a tool that might be beneficial to us. And I'm still learning. Like I said, I just thought of this because you presented that to me. Hadn't thought of this before. So in discussing what your pain points might be, we might be able to stumble across a solution that really suits you in a way that we never even thought of, and we could roll it out to other people. So.
Take it under advisement.
Thank you, sir. That's what I'm here for. In any instance I can try and provide any value with helping you guys make your jobs easier, that's what I want to do. So, but that is definitely something I've noticed with people is that the Google suite of tools is really phenomenal, and the integration that we get across them is just fantastic. And so I want to start using this more because we have such a wonderful tool set here that it can make our lives easier if we use it. And then that's one of the things, the reason why I actually listed as one of the things I wanted to do was the going over Google Sites is because I wanted people to start using Google Sites for projects because I know oftentimes you have thousands of things going on and you were talking about meeting every 2 weeks and you have certain expectations. Well, one of the things that makes things a lot easier from that standpoint is having a project site. So this is the intranet, but one of the projects I'm working on is actually the Bluebeam project. And so I created a Kaplan Bluebeam project website. And so my intention is that as I progress, you'll see right here is my issue tracker. So as things are updated, as the lists of to-do items appear, I'm going to put it on here. When I'm interacting with people, I'm going to have here a calendar, so everyone's going to know when the training is going to roll out. I can back end this website onto the intranet, so everyone has access to it. I'll have frequently asked questions, profiles, design sets, our profile tool sets. I'll have training, project documents that are associated with the project. The idea is that I want to make this a central location for everyone to understand. And this is one where I'm actually implementing or rolling something out, but this is not to say you can't use this for projects in general. And it's like having a centralized location, which I want to work on with a couple other people. I have an idea of what I'm going to try and implement it with, and I'll show people once I do it. But it's like, I think it's fantastic. It's a centralized location. And I was like, the benefit is here is that even people that don't have access to our S drive or our drives, you can share with them through this. And it's like, if they don't have a Google account, we can actually give them a sponsored account, and they'll be able to log in and access this document. So you can say, hey, which documents are we working from? These. This is where it's updated. You have given you edit access. If you get something new, you edit it on the website. All of us can see it. It's right here in a central location. We can keep issue trackers. We can keep everything that we need right here in this location. And so everybody knows this central location is where everyone goes and what has to be up to date. So it's an idea I'm working with. I don't have anything set yet, but here's like meeting notes. I like this a lot. Specifically because as you go to the meeting notes, we can click on it here and you see I've got the date and time stamp, but then different things that come up during this working group session, we actually created the Post-it note boards. And so Chris took pictures for me, and so we have it up here now. So when somebody wants to know, well, how did that meeting go? Well, here's how it went. Here's all the sheets on the wall right here, so we all know exactly what happened. And I have it set up as a slideshow right here. So you can do pictures for just about anything. And the neat thing is with this is how easy it is to integrate all of this. It is so phenomenally easy to create one of these sites. All you do is right here, there's a pencil to edit the page, and as we edit the page, everything pops up right here. It's drag and drop for the most part. So like right here, I can drag this around, put it somewhere else if I wanted to on the page. It's like I can actually change the slideshows. I can go back and check out if I want to insert anything. Here's where I can insert images. I can upload files. I can embed, which is what I did with the calendar and things like that, is embedding the actual things. You can look at it instead of actually trying to link through somewhere else. Maps. So if you want to have a map of your project, where it actually exists, so people, if there's any confusion, or when you're having one of those pre-proposal meetings, you can have the specific location linked, and you go, here, this is where you're going. Calendar, YouTube videos. So if we wanted to, while we're working on this, a lot of those time-elapse videos that you guys have for, multi-year projects, we could actually have that here. Have centralized locations for people to look this stuff up. Anything you put in Google, you can have on here. Forms, charts, sheets, slides, documents, everything. This can all be one centralized location. So everything can be readily available at all times. And one of the benefits I've said is that I can go on my smartphone right now and update this stuff. If I was out on a project and someone said, hey, Stefan, this is really terrible, this one document is completely wrong, I don't know why the contractor put it, I can log in, edit that document right there. And because these are, a lot of them are link throughs to Google documents and stuff like that, you don't have to change the link. I can change the document on the back end, and as soon as that document's updated, it immediately is updated on the website because it links through. So everything's real time. Everything's updated that way.
I need to.
So, thank you for coming in, George. So, Kelly, you got any more questions for me?
I have a pretty basic question.
Oh, please ask.
So, I was working on a Google Sheet.
Okay.
But then Jessica asked me to
Pop one
put it
up.
on the H drive.
Okay.
So, can I do that?
You absolutely can. Now, we need to clarify, though. Chris, do you want to field this question?
Sure.
What was it? No.
No, it's asking. You don't have to if you don't want to. I was just offering.
No, I was reading some emails. I wasn't paying attention.
So Kelly's question is that Jessica Riles, her supervisor, has requested that she take a Google Sheet that currently exists in the Google Drive and put a copy in the H drive. All right. That's not how she said it. I know what to do, so I was filling in where I shouldn't have. But she wants, there's currently existing a Google Sheet that she wants in their H drive.
Yeah.
So, do you want to drive?
I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, I feel like I'm missing a big component here because it seems like too simple.
Well, the answer is, once you know the answer, that's what I always said. When you know the answer, it seems evident. When you don't know the answer, it's not.
Okay, so are you just trying to download a sheet and put it
She didn't know
somewhere?
that you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on any form that you have, any document.
There should be one on those down, like if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there should be one there.
Okie doke.
If you want.
Once I get to scroll.
There you go.
So which one should I pick? To-do list?
I don't care, it doesn't matter, it's all the same.
So you can go within to-do list, and once that loads up there, we should be set to go. You can do File, and then Download As. And you can download it as an Excel file, open format, PDF, however you want to save it as.
I don't recommend open format. You guys don't utilize that because we actually have Microsoft.
Yeah, that would be good for something like Apache OpenOffice, which we don't have, as Stefan said. So Microsoft Excel, it downloads, and then however you want to find it, I always do show in folder so I know where it is, and then it's right there.
Right next to my The More You Know star.
The more you know. And then all you have to do is just drag and drop it over to the H drive.
Perfect.
And that's pretty much it. Wherever, if you have other folders in there that she wants you to put it into, like building leaks, specs, floor plan, shortcut, just drag and drop in there.
Okay.
And believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, I think you can actually, without going into the file itself, I think you can just right-click on it and then select download.
I believe you can. Oops. Yep.
But then if I want to continue to edit
And
that
download.
file, I should do that on my Google Drive. Correct.
Now,
Yes and no.
Okay.
If you want Jessica to see updates on the regular, then yes. But if this is something that's only going to be touched like once every 2 or 3 months, then it.
You know what I would suggest is to communicate with your team because they may not know how you all are sharing it. And I think people assume that, you know, if you download this copy of this Google document into Microsoft of any Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and you made updates, you have to realize that those updates still need to be uploaded to the Google folder that you were supposed to be in and still shared with the group. But you all should determine what that looks like and how you'd like to share that information because some people may not understand that, you know, if you're editing a document and you've downloaded by accident, so there's a way that you can download all Google documents to Microsoft Documents and edit. There's also other avenues, but you have to just really talk to your group and see what their preference is for editing because maybe, you know, some people send messages as attachments, email attachments, and they're working out of a copy of a document versus the original. There's so many avenues where you could really, like I edited the document and now we're in a meeting and that's not even the latest document. Stefan talked about versions earlier, which is really good. That's a possible avenue that you all can take to be safe. There are some, for me, I do download a lot. That's why I speak of downloading into Microsoft because Google is a little limiting with formatting and edits. So that's why I do that, but I make sure to upload it again and share it with the same people.
in general, when someone brings that question to me, I ask why. Why would you need to have a Google copy and a Microsoft copy?
Well, yeah, and I need to ask her, honestly, because, I think she wanted the folder in a certain folder or file path. And so that's how I ran into it. Whereas right now, it's a Google file, and so
maybe
she maybe didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And one of the things, the reason why I ask this question is because I want to know what problem you're trying to solve. Because in general, I recommend utilizing Google because it's a collaborative feature, and then you don't have to worry about, like what Alita mentioned, is that you don't have to worry about version control or anything like that because it's like, that's it, that's the most up-to-date copy. Google's always keeping that. If it is imperative that you actually have these items listed in your file architecture, what we could do differently is instead of actually using an Excel copy where you just like copy that, unless what you're trying to do is find a quick and easy way to like date timestamp those documents so you don't have to go through version control, you have something easily accessible and readily available, is that you can actually, if that was the case and that's what you're doing, you're timestamping it, that's fine, but you can also, if you needed to, just set up a shortcut. You can actually have a shortcut in your H drive that's a hyperlink to this document. Now, that seems like an interesting way to do things, but I was like, it all goes back to what are we trying to solve?
Right. Yeah, I can double check with her.
And whoever else shares that document, because maybe it's her and others, I'm not for sure, but whoever they are, those parties, find out how you all would like to manage the history or work with that document, because I've seen bad days with that, even from email attachments, seriously. I've had someone open up a Microsoft Word email attachment, edit that deal for 5 hours, and it updated the email attachment in Outlook.
No.
I'm just saying, there's so many things that you know, just to think about and clarify, which is, you know, the systems we use and the technology that we use, we have to communicate with each other to make sure we all have the same understanding, because some people don't understand what is a copy and what is a native form of a document. And you have to really be clear on that, because those things can come up. But that's a good question and good to bring it to her.
my favorite was I actually had someone, a team here that I used to work with, that actually sent out a PowerPoint presentation to 9 or 10 parties. I think it's 8 or it might have been 8. Let's say 8. So they emailed 8 different people a PowerPoint and said, hey, change your sections and then get it back to me by noon tomorrow. And so they sent it out and then everyone made their changes. Then someone actually had to modify each and every one of those PowerPoint presentations into one rather than just using Google Slides.
Yeah.
It was absolutely crazy.
Oh gosh,
and
and that's really hard because PowerPoint has a master slide thing. So if you're going in and adding manual stuff and everybody doesn't know what font or they're using their own colorful stuff or whatever that is, that could be really bad. A bad day. Google, maybe that's something that, I know, and maybe I missed it too, but when you were talking about versioning, maybe that is something, that's a big part of it, is that maybe that's a best practice when people are working with like PowerPoint documents like that, because that is a crucial piece that if you're adding slides, and you're adding, and then like you said, if you got 8 of those out there and they're downloaded in Microsoft, oh my gosh. I mean, because in the real world, you know, there's SharePoint, there's document management systems where you don't have to worry about that. But in here, because we don't have those, well, we do, but we don't. We have to think about those things, and that can be really, that's a really good point, that PowerPoint example that you brought up, oh my gosh. And it had, I only say that because that almost recently happened.
Oh, really?
But it was only 3 people, but they're adding slides, and you got 3 things going on.
Yeah.
That might be, I mean, that's, document handling is, it can take a lot of your time.
Yeah.
And your consistency for quality goes down tremendously if you have people understanding things in a different way. Yeah, that's good. That might be a class in itself, document handling.
Very true.
You know, how are we sharing our documents and what works, what doesn't? Don't make a mistake of thinking that you are in the native copy.
Well, and that's one of the things I've said that's going to be really, I think, a big change for us is file naming strategies, because in general, you tend to use a certain rubric whenever you're doing file naming and sharing in Active Directory. Well, a lot of that works because you're using these folders, these folder architectures, and like the search functionality is set up so it's like it can be a little bit difficult, so you're at least in the right area when you initiate a search. Well, now with Google, because of how phenomenal it is with search functioning, it's really difficult because it's like if you do use the same structure you did with Active Directory, it's going to be read very differently now, because it's with the search functionality, if you have like the same title for the same thing and then you're just adding the dates, doing a search for that, you're going to have like 5,000 files that pop up, because it's going to go across every project now, and it's going to go across every, and it's like, so we almost have to start changing the way we do this a little bit to kind of incorporate that now we can search a Google search on every file that we have.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you have any other questions?
Another kind of pretty basic one.
Don't say this basic. Like if we have this very similar things where there's a lot of stuff we don't know either, and that's one of the benefits of why I feel really honored to be in this role, is that you notice here I have additional people here to help me because they have expertise of their own, and there's times that I don't know the answer, and they're able to help out with that.
Yeah, I just was wondering if there's a way to set a header in Google Slides so that it
a header for a slide. I'm sure there is, but I've never actually used that before. Never even tried to set a header for a slide. I didn't even know what that was.
I meant Google Sheets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to.
I was going to say, I was like, never actually had anybody ask me that. I think that might be, they would probably end up doing a watermark with Google Slides in order to make that happen, but.
Yeah, like a header, footer versus thing. So it sounds to me like you miss the Microsoft elements.
Well, I'm new to the Google.
I understand. Do you know how to download Google documents to Microsoft so you can use your tools in Microsoft?
No.
maybe that's something we could show you, because that'll be, you'll be free.
Sure.
What's that? Please, if you want, we can connect to your...
yeah, I can, well, yeah, we can connect this one, actually, as promised.
All right, yeah, we can...
Okay, sorry.
Switch around to you.
Yeah.
You can just use this, and that way, I forgot that we're recording, so that way I'm screen sharing, so...
Okay, yeah, that's right, absolutely.
I don't want them to not be able to see what you're doing, because I think it's going to be really neat.
Okay, so I will just show you that if I were to have a... Oh, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in my name here, and let's just pretend this is, you know, a full document. And I would like to, so this is a Google document. I'm just going to, is it okay if I just, okay. So I'm just going to quickly save this document, and then what I'm going to do is say, you know, there's other things that I want to use, that like I use it in Microsoft, and there's a way to just click on download. And now that I'm on a different computer, where is it at? File download.
Correct.
So I'm just going to download this as when you see XLSX, well, it does say Microsoft, but just so you know, this is going to download to the real Microsoft, even though this is a little confusing because it looks like it has a weird little, when you look at this from a distance, it looks like, oh, well, that is Microsoft Excel, but it really isn't, because it's Google's version of Excel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I go here, and I'll just click on my download that appeared here automatically, and it will open up in a Microsoft version of this. And that's what I was explaining earlier, whereas if you download a document to Excel to make edits, but you do have to click on Enable Editing. I will say that. You can't print, you can't do anything and make edits until you do this. So when you click on Enable Editing, you have all of your Microsoft tools available at your hands on your ribbon. So you have all of that. But keep in mind that now you have taken this into a copy of what was on Google. So you would have to, you could save this to your drives and directories, or if you're sharing it with someone, it's critical to bring this back into, you know, the Google folder that you were in and share and make sure it's shared. And so if you're in a shared folder, you should be fine. But if you're not, you have to remember to share it with the people that need to have this shared. So you want to make sure that you can't just assume this is going to be saved. Right? Save it to your drive, you know, or you have to go ahead and, when you do have to save this before you could upload it to Google, by the way. Because right now it isn't saved. This is just, the title bar is just reading what I downloaded from Google. So just so you know, did I do? Oh, okay, so I'm just going to, I'll do a file save as, and then I save it as whatever, you know, so you can browse to whatever directory that you want to. And once you do that, if I save it to my desktop as test 1, is it okay if I do this? Okay.
A sidebar on that, what she was mentioning, like you noticed when she kept hitting save, it
oh yeah, because I was doing a
it's actually
temp directory
in your download folder,
which is horrible.
And so you can, if you update it, it'll still download, it'll still save in the downloads folder. So.
But just know the download folders is in a temp directory, so if something happens to our system, you are toast.
Exactly. I would never use the downloads folder for anything that needed to be permanent.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Our limitations. That's all I can say. But anyway, wherever I'd like to browse to, whatever folder that I'd like to upload this document to, these are my folders. And I could say, well, I think I want to upload it to my, you know, wherever I want to go, I would simply just go there. Otherwise, I would just upload it here by just a right click. I think I could just right click anywhere on here. Sorry, I'm getting... And then,
it's just running a little bit behind, sorry.
Oh, okay. And then I would just click on the same thing. So I would click on upload or upload it should be.
Well, like you wouldn't be selecting a specific file if you were uploading.
Oh, yeah, because that's what it's looking at. So I need to go out of here and...
You can drag and drop it, or if you want, you can go...
There it is.
You can get a new, Yeah, or my.
That's probably going to be easier. I bet you there's a shortcut for that on this listing. I usually just upload it to, because I have everything situated in folders. That's what I do like about Google, though. You can kind of organize your stuff with having folders of different projects you're working on. The upload files will allow for you to browse to where you saved your document. And I won't do that, but that's what it would allow me to do.
Okay.
One thing I think is really neat, because Lolita's mentioning this on drives, is that one thing I think is really neat is when people share something with you, what you can actually do is you can go into the file itself, and then you can actually click on the icon right at the top here. You can add your drive shared with you. And so what happens a lot of times is people get stuff shared with them.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. And so I probably should go with one that actually does, somebody actually has shared something with me. So that's just a link. Ask me anything, questions and responses. There we go. So this is for one of my classes. So this has been shared with me, and so what you'll see in the top right-hand corner here is there should be a section where we can actually add it to my drive. That's a star, not adding my drive. Come on. There you go. This is re-add it to your drive. So instead of having to go to shared with me every single time, you can find it in your drive. Now, what I try to mention to people is that, remember, this is completely cloud-based. So when you look for anything in here, this is just a reference link to the information stored. So Google doesn't have a file architecture saved up there that they're looking at all this stuff. They just have the reference. And the reason why I mention that is you can actually, so the to-do list here, a shortcut I have is Shift-Z. And when you hit Shift-Z, you can locate this anywhere else you want.
Okay.
You could technically, if you wanted to, you could actually, if there's you wanted to have one single to-do list for everybody in the space management team, but you wanted it to show up in every single project folder you guys had so everyone could find it, you could put a link in for the same to-do list in every single person's folder.
Sure.
And it's the same link to the same actual file. It's not going to be separate copies of it. You can create a separate copy, but in this instance, it's the actual copy for this. And that's important to note here is that it is often people misunderstand things. So it's like I can right-click on this and I can move this specific copy to somewhere else. I can hit Shift-Z and put another reference link to the same thing somewhere else. It's not a duplication of the file, it's just a separate link. Or you can actually make another copy of the document, in which case now it's completely separate from the first one. But I've actually used the Shift-Z quite a bit myself so that I can reference things in more than one location. I find it super helpful to put files in multiple locations if it's a situation where I know it's a file I'm going to use often, especially something that's been saved with me. So if somebody shared something with me and I don't want to go constantly back through here, you can actually do it at the folder level too. You just add to my drive the whole folder. So it's all cloud-based. So you're not actually moving anything or changing anything. You're just grabbing a reference to that information.
Okay.
What else you got for us?
I think that's everything right now.
We've exhausted all of your questions.
For the moment, yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I always want people to feel like we're accessible and then we answer your questions whenever you want, but people are busy, so oftentimes it's a good idea for us to have this time set aside where people can come in and ask us questions. So in case I haven't gone over that with you already, remember that the Ask Me Anything information is listed already on our intranet here. You can find it in the IT help. Here's the Ask Me Anything session. When you go here, here are the notes that I create for each session, and then this is where you can submit a question. So I request that if it's in general, if you can provide the questions at a time, that's great, specifically because then if I don't have the answer, I can make sure and speak to a subject matter expert and find an answer for you. And I've had some really unique questions in the past, actually. The last Ask Me Anything, somebody asked me about setting up a music production studio. So I was very surprised by that question.
One Button Studio?
Actually, they wanted to know what was it called a DAW, digital audio workspace to utilize, as well as the hardware I would recommend, as well as if there's any other things that you might need to think about, like the MIDIs and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, never would have anticipated that question.
One Button doubles as a soundstage, but it wouldn't have all the equipment.
But what was interesting is it gave me an ability to connect with some people. I actually knew a friend of mine that works here, actually is a former audio engineer at a radio station. And then one of the OIT guys downstairs is actually currently a music producer.
Did not know that.
So there you go. It's really interesting.
Good to know.
So a lot of really cool tools, and it's a neat way to actually connect with people too. It was like you get to learn a lot about your team members. There's some really cool people that work here.
Nice.
So that's what I got. I humbly request in the future, if you have any questions, please punch those through. We tried to make it a form that you can fill out at any time, so that way when a question comes up and you're thinking about it, you can quickly fill it out, and then you can forget it, and we'll take care of it, because people oftentimes forget. I mean, you guys are super busy. This is the last thing on your mind, but my hope is that in general, people are going to start seeing our intranet as something that they go to every single day. Every single day gives us insight, and that's what I really want. It's going to be helpful for us in the future, and I know that it's malleable. Why? Because it needs to be. We need this to be dynamic so that things we haven't thought of today and occur in the future can be incorporated. So, like I said, that intranet update slide, actually, that came into existence just like one day ago. I mean, it really did. I mean, I think it's phenomenal, because that's one of the big things I say is a difficulty for teams in general is communicating change.
Yeah.
And there's not a real need for people to know every change, or so they think. And that's the problem, is that there's such an impact that people don't ever think about. And so my hope is that that's going to resolve it. So that's all I got for you, because I could keep going into stuff forever. There's all sorts of awesome tools that Sheree knows about that I'd love to just sit and listen to her chat about too. So I think we're good to go. And at that point, I'm probably just going to turn off the recording now, because there's nobody else in the room but you, and you're leaving. So thank you very much for popping in on us, and I hope you have a lovely evening.